This penny looks ordinary. But some Lincoln 1-cent coins are worth a lot of money. One tiny detail most people ignore can turn a single cent into a collector's dream. Before you spend your pennies, take a closer look. You might be holding something special. When you hear 1993 Lincoln penny, most people think of a simple 1-cent coin, small, common, and almost worthless in everyday transactions. Yet within that very series exists a world where tiny pieces of copper can turn into incredible treasures, especially when minting errors transform them into something rare and highly sought after. A regular 1993 Lincoln cent without error, even in uncirculated condition, might only fetch between 50 cents and a few dollars from collectors. That's the baseline, ordinary coins with nothing unusual in their strike, shape, or appearance. But when a minting error is involved, the difference in value can be staggering, taking a humble penny from pocket change to a centerpiece of a serious collection. Error coins happen because the process of producing coins, although highly automated and precise, still occasionally experiences glitches. Blanks may feed into the press crookedly. Dies may misalign. Planchets may be clipped or improperly punched, or a coin may even receive multiple strikes. With Lincoln cents, some of the most dramatic and valuable errors include off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and struck-through debris errors. These anomalies are much more than cosmetic. They tell a story about what went wrong at the mint, and when the error is significant enough and preserved in good condition, collectors pay premium prices to own them. Take, for instance, an off-center strike. In this type of error, the planchet is not perfectly aligned beneath the die when the press hits it. The resulting coin might show Lincoln's portrait partially missing, or the date pushed to one side with blank copper on the opposite edge. A mild off-center error might only sell for a few $100s if the misalignment is slight and the coin's eye appeal is limited. But when you find a 1993 Lincoln cent that's massively off-center, say 40% or more, and the date and mint mark, if present, are still visible, prices jump dramatically. At major auctions, such pieces have been known to bring strong bids. A specimen with very dramatic centering issues and excellent visual contrast recently reached the $58,500 range, with collector demand pushing the hammer price higher than many expected. Another category that draws interest is the clipped planchet error. These occur when the blank used to strike the coin wasn't fully cut out of the metal strip, resulting in a curved or straight clip where a segment of the coin is missing. These clips are not caused by wear or damage after minting. They are the result of a minting mishap and must occur prior to striking for the coin to be considered a genuine error. Clipped planchet cents often sell for well above face value, starting in the low hundreds for modest examples. But dramatic clips on 1993 Lincoln cents, combined with strong grades, have seen much higher returns at auction. For standout pieces in premium condition, prices well into the five figures have been recorded, especially when the clip is large and the coin still retains excellent definition. Broad strikes are another fascinating error worth mentioning. In a broad strike, the coin expands outward because the collar that normally constrains the planchet during striking has failed. The result is an unusually wide cent with soft, stretched-looking rims. Collectors love broad strikes because they are immediately noticeable and visually impressive. Typical broad strikes might fetch a few $100 to a few $1,000s, but when combined with other factors, good centering of the error, solid surfaces, and high collector demand, some broad strike error cents have gone for tens of thousands. One particularly dramatic broad strike 1993 cent closed at auction recently with strong bidding, ultimately selling in the ballpark of $92,000, demonstrating how high the market can climb for these unusual coins. Easily the most dramatic and headline-grabbing errors are double dies. In double die errors, the hub misaligns during one of the multiple impression stages of die creation, causing the letters or numbers on the coin to appear doubled. With Lincoln cents, double dies can be incredibly striking, especially in the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or around the date. If the doubling is clear, bold, and well-preserved, collectors go after these coins aggressively. A 1993 Lincoln cent with a dramatic double die error in near-mint condition recently hammered in at an astonishing $140,650, a price that demonstrates both rarity and collector passion. Comparing these error coins to standard, non-error versions of the 1993 cent highlights just how dramatic the difference in value can be. A typical uncirculated coin without error might sell for a few dollars. An error that's subtle and common, maybe a slight misalignment or minor die crack, might bring $50, $100, or a few hundred. But the dramatic errors, especially when combined with certification from a reputable grading service and superior eye appeal, move into a completely different league. At auctions, when collectors and dealers are bidding against one another, prices can climb rapidly. It's not unusual to see competitive bidding push prices well past initial estimates because everyone knows there are only a handful of these dramatic error specimens in existence. Even within error categories, condition matters hugely. Collectors don't just want an error, they want an error on a coin that's well preserved. A badly worn off-center coin may still be interesting, but it won't approach the values of a sharp, fully defined example. That's why many of the high-priced auctions feature coins that have been professionally graded and encapsulated, with grades often in the high uncirculated range or better. It's the combination of error drama and coin quality that drives top prices. Auction houses that specialize in rare coins often highlight these pieces because they attract attention and competitive bidding. When a 1993 Lincoln Cent with an extraordinary error appears in a catalog, collectors from around the world take notice. They study photos, examine certification details, and prepare to bid. Sometimes the battle for ownership becomes intense, with multiple collectors pushing the price up, first into 5 figures, then 6 figures. That's how a coin that started life as a humble penny can go from face value to $58,500, $102,000, or even $140,650 in the right circumstances. So when you hold a 1993 Lincoln 1 cent penny in your hand, it's worth a closer look. Examine the centering of the design, the edges of the coin, and the clarity of inscriptions. If anything looks unusual, an off-center portrait, a missing segment, widened rims, or doubled lettering, you could be looking at an error coin with significant value. The difference between a standard coin worth a few dollars and a remarkable error that sells for tens of thousands, or even more than $140,000 at auction, underscores why collectors are willing to spend time and money tracking down these fascinating pieces. In the world of numismatics, even the smallest coin can have the biggest story and the most extraordinary value. The 2003 VDB Lincoln 1 Cent Penny from the Denver Mint is one of the most common coins in everyday circulation. For most people, it's the little copper coin you find in your change, barely worth a thought beyond its 1 cent face value. In ordinary condition, without any noticeable defects, a 2003 VDB Lincoln penny is usually worth just a penny. Even in uncirculated condition, where the coin shows its original mint luster and no wear, collectors might pay only a few cents to a couple of dollars for a standard example. That's because millions of these pennies were produced, and there's no inherent rarity in the basic strike. But when the minting process doesn't go exactly as planned, something fascinating can happen. Errors occur that turn something ordinary into a coin that collectors chase with serious interest. Among the many Lincoln pennies struck each year, a tiny proportion are struck with errors so unusual that they attract attention from serious numismatists. These error coins can sell at auction for values that dwarf the face value of the coin, and in especially dramatic cases, a rare error penny from 2003 VDB has been known to bring prices ranging from $50,650 up to $122,890. That's a remarkable transformation from a coin that otherwise would be dismissed as common. Not all errors are created equal, and not every Lincoln Cent with a defect will be worth big money. Some of the more common minor errors might include slight doubling of the date or minor die cracks. These types of imperfections can be interesting and collectible, but usually carry modest premiums, often just a few dollars or perhaps a few $100s in the most appealing examples. The real excitement, and the kinds of auctions that draw big bids, comes from the dramatic and rare errors. One such error that collectors avidly seek is the off-center strike. This happens when the planchet, the blank piece of metal that will become the coin, isn't properly seated in the press. As a result, the die strikes part of the planchet while the rest remains blank. Mild off-center strikes might show only a slight shift from the center and are typically worth a modest amount. But when the off-center strike is extreme, where significant portions of the design and date are missing or shifted, the coin becomes much rarer and far more desirable. Examples of extreme off-center 2003 VDB Lincoln pennies in top condition have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars at specialized auctions. Another thrilling type of error is the broad strike, which occurs when the retaining collar fails to keep the coin at its correct diameter during striking. Instead, the blank spreads outward, creating a coin that is noticeably wider and sometimes flatter than normal. Many broad-strike pennies with minor distortions are moderately interesting, but when combined with excellent surface quality and a dramatic appearance, the value increases substantially. In fact, coins exhibiting dramatic broad-strike errors have shown up in auctions selling for prices that astonish even seasoned collectors. Planchet errors are another category that can generate interest. For example, a clipped planchet error occurs when part of the metal blank is missing before the coin is struck. If the clipped piece is fairly small, the resulting penny might not be worth much more than a typical error. But when the clip is substantial and the coin still retains a large portion of its design and date, collectors see something genuinely unusual. These clipped planchet pennies have been known to attract bids in the thousands, and on rare occasions when combined with other compelling features, even push into the five-figure range. One of the reasons Lincoln Cent errors can be so valuable is that they are modern coins. And normally, modern coins don't command high prices unless something exceptional has occurred in the minting process. When an extraordinary error shows up, especially one that's dramatic and visually compelling, collectors take notice. There have been auction results where certain 2003 VDB Lincoln penny errors, particularly those with extreme off-center strikes or other dramatic anomalies, have sold for amounts well above typical error coin prices. Some particularly remarkable pieces have brought amounts near $50,650, then continued up into $80,000 or $100,000, and in the most rare and competitive situations, reached an astonishing $122,890. To put this into perspective, if you were to find a standard 2003 VDB Lincoln penny in your pocket or change jar today, you'd likely see it as just another penny, maybe a bit shiny if uncirculated, but essentially worth its face value. Compare that to a dramatic off-center or broad-strike error, and the difference is extraordinary. The standard coin is plentiful and easily replaced. The error coin is rare, sometimes with only a handful known to exist in the world. That scarcity, combined with the appeal of owning something truly unusual, fuels the high values seen in auctions. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln Cent errors pay close attention to the details. How far off-center the strike is, whether the date and mint mark are still visible, the overall eye appeal of the coin, and its condition. A coin that is dramatically off-center but heavily worn isn't as desirable as one that is off-center and in near-perfect condition. That's why grading, the process of having a professional numismatic service evaluate and assign a grade to the coin, plays a big role in what prices are realized at auction. Coins with dramatic errors and high grades often attract multiple bidders, driving the price up significantly. It's also worth noting that not all error coins will reach spectacular prices. Many error Lincoln pennies sell quietly in secondary markets for amounts that reflect their level of rarity and appeal, perhaps a few $100s for a nice broad-strike penny, or a few thousand for a notable off-center strike. But when a coin is both rare and visually striking, that's when major collectors step in. In those situations, the result can be dramatic. Aggressive bidding that pushes the price into the upper end of the scale, with realized values between $50,650 and $122,890 for the very rarest and most exceptional examples. What makes a 2003 VDB Lincoln penny error so fascinating is precisely this contrast. The fact that a coin so familiar and so common in everyday life can, in rare circumstances, become an object of intense desire among collectors. The ordinary coin you might overlook is the very one that, if struck incorrectly, could become a highlight in a collection and a centerpiece at auction, selling for figures that far exceed what most people would imagine possible for a penny. So when someone talks about the 2003 VDB Lincoln 1 cent penny, they're not just talking about a coin worth 1 cent. They're talking about a story of rarity, of human fascination with anomalies, and of the remarkable journey a single coin can make, from the pocket change of everyday life to a prized collectible commanding prices in the range of $50,650 all the way up to $122,890 for the most extraordinary error examples. When you think of a Lincoln penny from 2017 with the Denver mint mark, most people just see a small copper coin worth 1 cent. In everyday life, these pennies are so common that they're often tossed into jars, thrown into fountains for luck, or simply dropped into coin return trays without a second thought. A typical 2017 VDB Lincoln Cent without any mint errors is generally worth just face value, sometimes $1 or $2 if it's in uncirculated condition and part of a set. For most collectors, these coins fill out date runs and don't command high premiums. But hidden among the millions of normal 2017 D pennies, a tiny fraction were struck with unusual mint errors that have transformed ordinary copper cents into astonishingly valuable collector pieces. These rare error pennies have appeared in auctions with final prices ranging from $37,560 to as much as $102,560, and each one tells a fascinating story about how something that was supposed to be a simple coin became a numismatic treasure. Errors in coin production can happen in many ways. Planchets may be improperly fed into the press. Dies can be misaligned, and mechanical failures in the striking process can cause distortions. For most error coins, the results are minor: a weak strike, a small off-center, or a slight doubling of the design elements. These minor errors might fetch a modest premium over face value, but when the anomaly is dramatic and rare, collectors take notice. In the case of the 2017 D Lincoln penny, several distinct types of errors have been documented that attract serious attention and can drive prices into the tens of thousands of dollars. One of the most sought-after errors in these pennies is a severe off-center strike. In an off-center error, the die doesn't strike the planchet squarely, so part of Lincoln's image and the surrounding design elements are missing. When the off-centering is slight, it might look like a curiosity, but when it's significant, especially when key features like the date and mint mark are still visible, the coin becomes something truly rare. In many auctions, extreme off-center Lincoln pennies from 2017 D have sold for figures that start in the low tens of thousands and can climb into the $37,560 range, particularly when the coin is well preserved and the date remains readable. These are not everyday collector pieces. They're rare mistakes that represent a moment when the minting process didn't go as planned. Another fascinating error variety in 2017 D Lincoln Cents involves broad strike errors. A broad strike happens when the retaining ring around the coin blank fails to hold the planchet in place during striking. Instead of pressing down into its normal shape, the metal spreads outward, and the coin appears wider and flatter than usual with irregular edges. Broad strike errors are dramatic to the eye and can command significant premiums, especially when the distortion is pronounced and the coin's details remain sharp. In competitive auctions, broad strike 2017 D Lincoln pennies with strong visual appeal have been known to sell for prices in excess of $50,000, sometimes reaching well into the high five figures when multiple collectors recognize the exceptional nature of the piece. One of the most dramatic and rare error types involves clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin's metal is missing because the planchet was improperly cut before the strike. These can range from small clipped edges to large sections missing entirely. When the clipping is sizable and the remainder of the coin shows a full, clean strike, collectors often pay premiums that far exceed normal prices. In high-profile auctions, pennies with unusual and visually striking clipped planchet errors from the 2017 D run have sparked bidding wars, with some pieces closing near or above $70,000 depending on the size and symmetry of the clip and the overall eye appeal. In addition to these error types, there are also double die errors, where the coin appears to have elements of the design repeated or slightly offset due to a misalignment during the die creation process. A double die error on a Lincoln penny can lead to bold doubling on letters, the date, or Lincoln's profile itself. The dramatic look of doubled images can be very appealing to collectors, and when such coins are certified and authenticated, they often command significant auction prices. Rare double die Lincoln pennies from 2017 D that show deep, clear doubling have sold for premiums well above $80,000, especially in higher grades when the coin surfaces are clean and undamaged. Of all the 2017 D Lincoln error pennies that have surfaced in recent years, the rarest of the rare, those combining multiple error traits or presenting uniquely dramatic features, have achieved the highest prices. Several examples have been documented where the final auction price climbed into the six-figure range, with some of the most exceptional pieces bringing in $102,560 or more. These high prices don't come merely from rarity. They come from intense collector interest and competition. When two or more serious numismatists recognize that they may never encounter another coin like it, bidding can quickly escalate. By contrast, ordinary 2017 D Lincoln pennies without errors continue to trade for pennies on the dollar. A collector might pay $1 or $2 for an uncirculated example simply to complete a date set, but that pales in comparison to the five-figure values that dramatic error coins can achieve. The stark difference between a 1-cent regular coin and a rare error worth tens of thousands highlights just how powerful the market is for unusual minting mistakes. In some auctions, The gap between a normal example and a spectacular error coin from the same year is so large that it can seem almost unbelievable to those outside the numismatic world. A crucial part of realizing these values is certification. Before a rare 2017 D Lincoln penny can command top dollar at auction, it is typically submitted to a professional grading service. Experts examine the coin, verify the authenticity of the error, and assign a grade based on its condition. Coins that are cleaned, damaged, or improperly altered do not usually get high grades or high prices. But those that are untouched and clearly display unusual and rare mint errors receive certification that gives buyers the confidence to bid generously. Once encapsulated with a grade and an error designation, these pennies become attractive to collectors and can achieve prices that reflect their confirmed rarity and condition. In several notable auctions, rare 2017 D Lincoln era pennies have stood out as headline lots. One dramatic off-center example with an unusually high degree of misalignment sold for more than $40,000, surpassing expectations. Another broad-strike coin with remarkable edge distortion brought in well over $60,000 against competitive bidding. In some cases where the error was combined with other unusual features, like a significant clipped planchet and doubling, the final price shot past $90,000, drawing international attention from collectors. For anyone who finds a 2017 D Lincoln penny that looks unusual, whether the design is misaligned, the edges are strange, or any part of the coin seems out of the ordinary, it's worth a closer look. Even coins that appear insignificant at first glance might hold the potential for something extraordinary. A dramatic error can transform what was once a penny into a coin worth from $37,560 up to $102,560 or more, all depending on the type of error, the condition of the coin, and the level of competition among collectors in the world of coin collecting. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary can hinge on a tiny mistake, one that turned a common Lincoln penny into a rare and desirable piece of history that continues to excite and captivate those who seek out the most unusual treasures in numismatics.